With me today is Dr. Leslie Ramos Salazar. She is an associate professor and the Amjad A. Abdallah Professor of Business Communications and Decision Management. So, the reason we have you here today is because you are our 2021 Research Intellectual Contribution winner for the college as well as for the university. So, that's a huge award for both us and for the university. So, thank you for being with us and chatting with us today.
Well, thank you for the invite. My pleasure.
Yeah, 100%. So let's dive into your research because that's what you won the award for, and that's probably what you want to talk about. So, can you tell me just a little bit about your research, what's your commonality, streams, that type of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, research is something that, when I became a professor, I've always been a curious person and I want to know. So I always feel ignorant. And the research helps me to reduce my ignorance. So when I go in and ask just any research question, like, okay, what makes people happy? What makes them more satisfied? Whether it's in the classroom, in the workplace, research helps me find out answers to that. So one big streamline that I really enjoy is actually healthcare and well-being. So I enjoy just learning about what makes people better off health-wise. In other words, are they more likely to have high mental well-being or high physical health? So those concepts kind of make me encouraged to do more research. So in align with the health research pipeline, a lot of it has to do with self-compassion and mindfulness. And I did my dissertation back at ASU, and I did a scale on just like how do you communicate compassion. So if somebody's there lying in pain, how are you going to reduce that with communication? So that was my scale. So, and I think that's what launched the self-compassion mindfulness track in my research. So that's what I've been doing. I love using Kristen Neff's scale for self-compassion, the 5 facets of mindfulness. So, and I find that those two concepts are relevant whether in the classroom, whether at work. So I've used that in leadership studies. I've used that also just recently in a faculty study. For instance, one study was looking at just faculty who were dissatisfied with their bodies. During the pandemic, a lot of faculty gained weight, including myself, sadly. But anyways, so that sparked a study right there because I was like, oh, that's something, it's a problem, it's happening. So the study's looking at fat talk. So how are people talking about their weight? Post-pandemic, and then how does self-compassion and mindfulness help them become more satisfied with their bodies, and also how does that help with their mental well-being? So ultimately, I really enjoy those topics.
That sounds awesome. And so you've touched on a few points that knowing the classes that you teach, they also touch on your research area. So how do you see teaching and research, and how do those kind of commingle and play with one another?
Okay, well, I call it the statistical advantage. I think that because I teach statistics, that I cover the fundamentals, running correlations, running ANOVAs, running regression, multiple regression, and all of those are going to be needed in any scientific study I do. Even the more advanced stuff I do will have basic correlations. So being able to teach those concepts to students, then I'm like, oh, wow, I truly have to understand it. And because of that basic understanding, that launched so many projects because I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so easy. Am I just being lazy, not doing papers? It's not that hard. And then you build from those basic little blocks, and then you do more advanced work, like, structural equation modeling or longitudinal analysis or whatever it is, mediation or something. So I always find that those little bits in the classroom really help me. But on the other flip of the coin, I also find that research can inform the teaching too. Like, for example, just this week we covered data analysis and we covered t-tests. So, and I enjoy talking about pair t-tests. So I covered how I used that in my mandala study. So I did a cool study where I just had a control group, then I had 2 experimental groups. The baseline, they just had to doodle stuff. In the control group 1, they had to color in a pre-drawn mandala. And then the other one, they had a circle and they had to color it in themselves, so creativity. So I ran a whole kind of t-test across the board of mandalas to find out which one was better. So ultimately, the better approach to reduce math anxiety was the one, it was a white circle and they just literally color in, and that helps reduce their math anxiety. So as a result, I get to cover that in the classroom. The students get to color, have fun with it, and reduce some of their math anxiety.
Well, that's really cool. So do you call that the Mandela effect, to play off Mandela effect? Because that'd
Yeah,
be kind
for
of
sure.
fun.
Well, I call it, it's actually aligned with art therapy. So in
Mhm.
the social psychology field, art therapy is used a lot for folks that deal with anxiety, fear, that kind of stuff.
Well, that sounds really cool. So you've mentioned also kind of in there, and I know just a little bit about your research. So how do you involve students from the classroom into your research, either process or publications themselves? Just kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, there's two ways. When I look at undergrads, I normally use it in for the stat class. What I have is I have a final project, and in that one, students really get to play with the data set and ask questions that they think it's important. And from that project, I really look at each of the projects and I encourage them to just go beyond the classroom to either participate in a research poster here at the campus at the WT undergraduate research conference or at another conference. And if they're interested in even proceeding or advancing the project, they can work with me personally. For the online group, it's a whole different story because they're a little harder. So my approach has been, at least with the MBA students, to create an assignment where it's a case study assignment. Now, there, what I do to prepare them, I share my case study projects. So, for instance, I have a Hubble contact lens project where it kind of teaches them, okay, so if this problem occurred at this company, how will they go about in solving that? Or there's the SockDoc study. Okay, so this is something happening with this app. How can you be a critical thinker using that? So using those studies, they learn. They learn how, first off, what they're supposed to look like, the kinds of discussion questions. So the case study assignment allows them to, okay, they'll pick some organization in healthcare and they'll identify problems or they'll identify areas that need further discussion in a sense, so they can then become educators for other people in a sense. Because that's what, in a sense, a publication is sometimes, right? Dissemination of knowledge. So that's kind of the idea there. So what I do to encourage high quality, what I do is I have a case study competition as part of the project. So then I do it two ways. One way, I have other faculty that peer review the cases, and then the top ones get selected, top 1, 2, 3. And other times I will go in and just kind of pick my own and say, I kind of have an idea of what they're supposed to look like.
Mm.
So then I go 1, 2, 3, and that really gets them excited. Some success stories have been students that have used that case study and then actually pursue publication. So I had one student that successfully did get his accepted for the Sage Business Cases, and then I have another one that submitted as well, but we still don't know how that will turn out.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, the research process is uniquely terrible for its own reasons.
That's right.
So, what's not uniquely terrible is what's your favorite project you have going on right now? You are someone who you research with a ton of different people across campus, across disciplines. You are quite prolific in that regard. But what's your favorite one you're working on right now?
Ooh, the one I'm working right now at this moment, and I'm actually collecting data this semester, and that one is all about burnout. So this is a healthcare project. So any employee that works in a healthcare institution or organization that's experiencing burnout, and we know from the pandemic that the burnout went really high for the healthcare field. So I'm curious more, okay, this is post-pandemic, now vaccines are out, etc. Is that burnout still prevalent? And what's happening in the healthcare field is that there's still a lot of folks quitting their jobs for a variety of different reasons. And I want to find out what specific characteristics will help to retain healthcare employees. So I want to know that question. So that's my goal. My goal is to identify different factors that can keep them at their jobs, so that way the turnover will go down. So that's one that I'm really enjoying.
Nice, that's awesome. Is that so? What's your favorite project you've done all time? What's your favorite research?
That's a tough one, actually. That's a tough one because I have so many I like. But I would say one that I just published with Dr. Medor. So we did a study on grit.
Okay.
And the reason I like that concept of grit is from Angela Duckworth. And it's this idea, you have perseverance, and you have, strength, and a strong will, and all of those criteria that make you supposedly a more successful person. So I use that scale on our undergrad students at WT, and what the reason I like that article is because it had really interesting findings in that model. So we had grit overall, and we had kind of self-control, and how it linked to autonomous learning, meaning that they kind of felt more in charge of their learning experiences, and then that overall led to higher performance in their classes. So in other words, higher GPA. So I really enjoy that one.
Nice. Well, that's really cool. And it's nice that it's recent too. It makes you want to keep doing it rather than your best work. I peaked in high school. That's why I say that. So one benefit that we also have with you is that you're also great in the classroom, and you're also great in service. And so I would feel bad if I didn't ask you a little bit about that. So for service side, you run Alpha, and then on the teaching side, you touch on some of our extremely important classes. So is there anything you want to touch on as far as your activities in the college with service and or teaching?
Sure. Well, I know Alpha is a big important thing I do for the college. That has opened up a lot of opportunities for both the students and even myself. So it's been a lot of fun because it's career development, and it's our opportunities to host a lot of workshops that are relevant to a variety of different majors in the college. So we just don't focus on one area. So we'll have marketing, we'll have, CIS, sometimes we'll have accounting. So because the students come from all different majors. So that's what's been really neat. And it's really fun. Sometimes we do big shot events or distinguished lecture series where we bring big speakers for the campus. So that's another avenue too. But that has been a lot of fun. And I've been finding the students do benefit from those experiences the more engaged they are.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. So classroom, what's your favorite class to teach?
Oh, that's a hard one to. So I would say the healthcare communication classes, just
Okay.
because it ties more to my research.
Mhm.
So I feel more empowered because I'm able to bring in more of my research in those classes, and
Awesome.
and you gotta always stay up to date because there's so much healthcare findings, and it changes so drastically, and I struggle sometimes. Okay, I need to find out what's next and where is it going next. It's kind of fun though, finding out the findings.
Nice. And so I'm actually going to throw you a curveball. What is your favorite concept to teach? And it doesn't have to be in healthcare, but what's your favorite concept? Like every time you're going to lecture on that, you get super excited. Like what's that favorite concept?
Oh, that's a good one. So I like theories myself. I like to cover the theory sections. I know people don't like theories. They think they're boring and dry, but I don't. I'm the opposite. I find theories to be exciting. And so in healthcare classes, I'll cover here's the health belief model, and here is the self-efficacy, right? And I'll go ahead and kind of get them interested in theory development, and even have assignments where I have them analyze a whole theory using a problem, and that gets students interested in theory too, I guess.
Nice. Well, that's good then. Hopefully people will stop saying theoretically and they'll actually say hypothetically, right? Or we'll hypothesize this. So that's good. I fully adhere to that. What has been your favorite experience at WT?
Oh, so this is actually interesting. So I remember it was around my first year when I first got hired, and they got an email and it said, it's a snow day, and I didn't know what to make of it. So I still came to the campus to work, and I found it to be one of the most magical experiences. The whole campus was full of snow. It was white. It was like fairy tale, like being in Frozen pretty much.
Mm.
And I walked around and just took pictures, and I think that was really magical for me.
That's really cool. I really like the campus whenever it snows. It's got a lot of flat places, so snow can then gather and all that. So I completely agree. That's great. So right now, if you were to talk to a student, what advice would you give a student? And you can pick who this student is. It could be a freshman, it could be a grad student, whatever it is. But what advice would you give a student right now?
Okay, so for a student, I think that I would tell them to focus on achieving lifelong learning. And what that means is taking responsibility for learning. It's not just about that external reward. So for students, it's getting that big A. So I know getting an A is like very rewarding and everything, but it's not the end of the world if you get a C or a B or another grade. Some employers tell me that they prefer sometimes to hire students that have a B if they have engagement, either in student organizations, community service, internships, whatever it is, any engagement. So, and the difference with students that do this is that they really are committed to lifelong learning. In a sense, they want to develop themselves more than just getting an A and then I'm done. They want to actually develop themselves professionally. And versus a student that, oh, I already got my A, I'm done, versus, okay, I'm struggling here, but I'm learning. And even when this class is over, how can I use this course concept in the future, right now in my job, or the next time that I do apply for that internship? How could I apply this skill in that setting?
Yeah, nice. Okay, well, I just have two quick things in to kind of round out what we have. Is one, congratulations again on the research award for both the college and the university. That is huge. We have a ton of really good researchers across the college and the university, so huge achievement there. And two, happy birthday.
All right, well, thank you.
I know we're a day late, but we'll pretend like this is evergreen. So thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon for one of these because you are amazing in everything that you do at the college. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you.